हाँ,
हो जाएगा मैम।
हो जाएगा, हो जाएगा नहीं, करना ही पड़ेगा। करना ही पड़ेगा, और कुछ नहीं है। रोहिणी, रजनी,
जी मैम।
क्या स्टेटस क्या है तुम्हारा?
मैम मैं पीपीटी बना के आपके मेल पे सेंड की।
कब की थी? मुझे तो नहीं मिला।
मैम मैं जब आप पीपीटी के लिए बोली थी ना, मैं 1 हफ्ता पहले ही बना के आपको व्हाट्सएप किया, फिर आपने बोला कि मेल पे
टॉपिक
सेंड
क्या है?
करो, फिर मैं मेल पे
टॉपिक
सेंड
क्या है
किया।
तुम्हारा? टॉपिक क्या है?
मेल डाकिया वाला,
हाँ,
द मिसिंग मेल।
नहीं मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है, वापस से करो एक बार।
ओके मैम।
इशरत,
यस मैम।
क्या स्टेटस क्या है तुम्हारा?
मैम मेरा अभी रेडी नहीं हुआ है।
हाँ,
अभी रेडी नहीं है।
अरे वही तो मैं पूछ रही हूँ, कभी रेडी होगा?
जल्दी।
जल्दी का मतलब क्या है? जल्दी यानी 1 दिन, 2 दिन, 10 दिन, 15 दिन?
2 दिन बाद।
नेक्स्ट थर्सडे सबका रेडी रहने वाला है।
ओके मैम। यस
किसी को
मैम।
प्रॉब्लम है? थर्सडे तक सबका रेडी होना चाहिए।
यस मैम।
ओके। यस मैम।
थर्सडे से पहले मुझे भेजना है।
ओके मैम।
यस मैम।
आता इकडे हे चालू आहे, त्याच्यामुळे आता ती स्फुर्र करून शिट्टी वाजेल. तुला माहिती आहे ना तरी पण? Okay, so now I'm going to start with today's topic. Can you see the presentation? PowerPoint presentation?
यस मैम।
So now we are going to start with print media. Here we are concerned with newspapers and magazines. Our learning objectives are to define printing, to describe technological development of printing, to compare and contrast newspaper and magazine, to enumerate highlights in the history of newspaper, to list down important newspapers in India, to discuss the role of newspapers in Indian freedom struggle, to discuss the development and role of press in post-independence India, to critically evaluate issues and problems of press, to describe the types of newspapers, to explain the formats of newspaper items, to explicate the style of journalistic writing, to enumerate highlights in the history of magazines, to describe the types of magazines in detail with suitable examples. So you can see this is a very extensive unit. From your topic, this is a very extensive topic. From your unit number 2, unit number 3 and unit number 4, whatever is related to print media is covered over here. Now remember, you are having print media, radio, television, film, and digital media. Whatever the points are related to these topics in your unit number 2, 3, and 4 will be dealt in these presentations. So all the topics related to print media will be dealt in this particular presentation. All the topics related to films will be dealt in films. So we are going according to the mass media. Is that clear to you?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So now, first we will see what is printing. It is the process of mass reproducing text using a master form or template. The earliest example of printing is woodblock printing found in China before 220 AD. So here you can see the picture of block printing, woodblock printing. Then we have movable type printing. Bai Sheng developed the system of using movable pieces of porcelain type for printing around 1040 AD. So this is a picture of Bai Sheng. Then copper movable type printing originated in China at the beginning of 12th century. Then there is invention of printing press by Jonas Gutenberg around 1440. And the first text he printed was Gutenberg Bible in the year 1455. So you can see Gutenberg in this third picture. After this, there was printing revolution, which led to Renaissance, scientific revolution, knowledge-based society, and capitalism. So please note down the main points. The earliest example of printing is found in China before 220 AD. Bi Sheng developed the system of movable block printing around 1040. And Gutenberg invented printing press in the year 1440. Gutenberg Bible was printed in the year 1455. Then the next development was rotary printing press. Richard March Hoe in 1843 invented the system of using impressions curved around a cylinder to print on long continuous rolls of paper. So you can see the rotary printing press in the picture. Then there is offset printing. It is widely used modern printing process. Here inked image is transferred, that is offset from a plate to a rubber blanket, then to the printing surface. Ira Washington Rubel developed it in 1904 for printing on paper. So you can see offset printing. And then 1991 onwards, you have digital printing. It is the methods of printing from a digital based image directly to a variety of media. You have desktop publishing, inkjet printing, and laser printing. So please note down the important points. Rotary printing press is invented by Richard March Hoe in the year 1843. Offset printing is invented by Ira Washington Rubel in the year 1904. And 1991 onwards, you have digital printing. These names are important as objective questions. Now we will see print publications issued at regular intervals. We have newspapers and we have magazines. Newspapers are printed daily. Magazines can be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Quarterly, once in 3 months. Newspapers convey as efficiently as possible current news. Magazines offer more in-depth coverage of news. The purpose of newspaper is to inform. The purpose of magazine is to enlighten and entertain. In newspapers, only principal sections are identified. In magazines, you have detailed tables of contents. Newspapers cover general topics. Magazines serve specialized interests. For newspapers, low-quality paper is used. For magazine, high-quality paper is used. The lifespan of a newspaper is 1 single day. Magazines can be preserved for long. Please note down the difference between newspapers and magazines. It can be asked as a short note. Distinguish between newspaper and magazine. I repeat, newspapers are daily, magazines are weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Newspapers convey as efficiently as possible the current news. Magazines offer more in-depth coverage of news. The purpose of newspapers is to inform. The purpose of magazines is to enlighten and entertain. In newspapers, only principal sections are identified. In magazines, detailed tables of contents are given. Newspapers cover general topics. Magazines serve the specialized interests. For newspapers, low-quality paper is used. For magazines, high-quality paper is used. The lifespan of a newspaper is 1 single day. Magazines are preserved for long. You can see a newspaper over here, and you can also see a magazine over here. So you can compare and contrast the newspaper and magazine. You can see the size of newspaper and you can see the size of magazine, the quality of paper, and how the various parts are arranged in newspaper and magazine. So have a look at newspaper and magazine. Then we will move further. Now we will see history of newspapers. The word news is made from 4 words, that is north, east, west and south. It is the periodical publication covering wide range of topics circulated publicly. This is the definition of newspaper. The first example of newspaper is found in Venice, where you had handwritten news sheets in the year 1566. First printed newspapers were published weekly in Germany from 1609. First English language newspaper is current out of Italy, Germany, etc. in the year 1620, printed at Amsterdam. First English newspaper in England was London Gazette, at first called the Oxford Gazette, which was started on 7th November 1665. The first newspaper in India was Hickey's Bengal Gazette, started on 29 February 1780 by James Augustus Hickey. Raja Ram Mohan Roy started a Bengali newspaper, Samvad Kaumudi, in 1822 and a Persian paper, Mirat ul Akbar, in 1822. Fardonji Mursaban in 1822 started Bombay Samachar. He was a pioneer of vernacular press in Bombay. Please note down all the points, they are important. First example of newspaper, handwritten news sheets in Venice in the year 1566. First printed newspapers, Germany, 1609. First English language newspaper, current out of Italy, Germany, etc. Year 1620, place Amsterdam. First English newspaper in England is London Gazette or the Oxford Gazette, started on 7th November 1665. First newspaper in India, James Hickey's Bengal Gazette, started on 29 February 1780. Raja Ram Mohan Roy started 2 newspapers in the year 1822, Samvad Kaumudi in Bengali and Mirat ul Akbar in Persian. Fardonji Mursaban started Bombay Samachar in the same year, that is 1822, and he is the pioneer of vernacular press in Bombay. I hope you have noted down all the important points.
Yes, ma'am.
So now see the example of Hickey's Bengal Gazette and Mumbai Samachar. You can see Mumbai Samachar was bilingual. It was in Bengali and in English. Now we will see list of newspapers during Indian freedom struggle. Mind you, all these names, years, titles are important as objective questions. Please note down each and every point. So you can see year, title, type and founder. So the first newspaper was Bengal Gazette, started by James Hickey in the year 1780. Then Samvad Kaumudi was started in the year 1819 by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Meeratul Akbar was started in the year 1822. Here you can see the type. Samvad Kaumudi was Bengali, Meeratul Akbar was Persian. Then in the year 1854, Ras Goftar, it was Gujarati newspaper started by Dadabhai Nauroji. In the year 1858, Som Prakash was a weekly newspaper started by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. In 1862, Indian Mirror was started by Devendranath Tagore. Just a minute. Then, in the year 1868, Amrit Bazar Patrika was started by Shishir Kumar Ghosh and Motilal Ghosh. 1871, Tahzeeb ul Akhlaq. It was a journal started by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. In the year 1878, Hindu newspaper was started by Veer Raghavacharya and G.S. Iyer. In 1881, Kesri was started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. In 1888, Sudharak was started by Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. In 1892, Hindu Patriot, an English weekly, was started by Girish Chandra Ghosh. And in 1896, Prabuddha Bharat, an English monthly journal, was started by Swami Vivekanand. I repeat, please note down all the titles, years, and founders, as they can be asked as objective questions. Next, in the year 1899, Udbodhan, again Udbodhan was a magazine again started by Swami Vivekanand. In 1905, Aurobindo Ghosh started Bande Mataram. In 1910, Bombay Chronicle was started by Firoz Shah Mehta. In 1911, Comrade, a weekly English newspaper, was started by Maulana Muhammad Ali. In 1912, Al-Balagh, an Urdu weekly newspaper, was started by Abdul Kalam Azad. In 1912, Abdul Kalam Azad also started another Urdu weekly newspaper called Al-Hilal. In 1913, Pratap, a Hindi language newspaper, was started by Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi. In 1914, New India was started by Annie Besant. In 1919, Mahatma Gandhi started Young India, which was a weekly journal. In 1920, Dr. Ambedkar started Mook Nayak, a Marathi weekly. In 1924, Sundar Singh Lalpuri started Hindustan Times. In 1929, Mahatma Gandhi started Navjeevan, a weekly newspaper. In 1932, Mahatma Gandhi started Harijan. In 1936, Tarak Nath Das started Free Hindustan, a journal. And in 1936, Hindustan Dainik, a Hindi newspaper, was started by Madan Mohan Malviya. Okay. Once again, Go through the year, title, type, and founder. I again repeat, they are important as objective questions. If you have missed anything, please note down. I hope you have noted down all the important points.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So now we will see role of newspapers in Indian freedom struggle. The Bengal Gazette, run by Irishman James Augustus Hickey, the paper was noted and had infamy for its satirical tone and repeated ridicule of British Raj. Something Hickey was proud of and escalated every time he was sued or otherwise impeded by its agents. So, the Bengal Gazette, though it was an English paper, it was run by an Irishman. So, you need to know the history of England, the way England was ruling over India. In the same way, England was also ruling over Ireland. So the Irish people, they were opposed to the colonization of Britishers. So though Augustus Hickey was a white man, he was not British. He had the affiliation. He felt one with the Indians. So he used the satirical tone and repeated ridicule to target, to attack the British Raj in India. Then, in 1857, during the First War of Independence, the newspaper paper Payam-e-Azadi took to spreading the message that the British would continue to divide and rule and that people had to stand up against it. Please note down the names of the newspapers. These are the early examples. Then we must acknowledge that rise of nationalism owes to the spread of knowledge through newspapers. Newspapers are important because for spreading public awareness regarding British atrocities. For example, you have an example of a play, Neel Darpan. It depicted the exploitation of indigo farmers by British traders. Then, newspapers published patriotic literature. They also educated the common people. They criticized social evils such as sati, child marriage, caste system, and untouchability, etc. They supported social reforms. Newspapers generated political awareness and propagated democratic values among Indians. They also propagated nationalist ideology to awake, train, mobilize, and consolidate nationalist public opinion. Newspapers and rise of nationalism is generally asked as an essay type question. The points you see over here are the headings, and then you have to explain each and every point in detail. Normally, this particular question is asked for 20 marks. I repeat, newspapers and rise of nationalism. First point, spreading public awareness regarding British atrocities. Second point, publishing patriotic literature. Third point, educating common people. Fourth point, criticizing social evils such as sati, child marriage, caste system, untouchability, etc. Fifth point, supporting social reforms. Number 6, generating political awareness and propagating democratic values among Indians. And the last point, propagating nationalist ideology to awake, train, mobilize, and consolidate nationalist public opinion. For a 20 marks answer, you will have to elaborate each point with suitable examples. For this purpose, you need to read the reference material. Now we come to British censorship. British instituted the Vernacular Press Act in 1878, aimed squarely at suppressing non-English papers for criticizing the Raj, for the voice against colonial rule had risen greatly after the famine of 1876. So please note down Vernacular Press Act 1878. Then, the most infamous targets of the sedition clause was Bal Gandhar Tilak. Sedition, you can call it Rajadroha. Then you have Press Act in 1910. It again imposed censorship on newspapers. Then you have Press Emergency Powers Act in the year 1931. And you can see that so many acts were passed for censorship, and yet the newspapers became stronger and stronger with the passing time. Why? Because the pen is mightier than sword. So here we finish with the history of newspapers till independence, till 1947. If you have any doubt, you can ask.
No doubt, ma'am.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, so today we stop over here. The rest of the part we will see in the next lecture. But before that, I want you people to submit your presentations, and then mind you, you have to actually present. The way I'm presenting, the same way you have to present your topics. Am I clear enough?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So see you next week.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.